Hey there, you guys. It's Anne Marie, Bald Girl Will Travel, and I am live again. I've been off of here for a couple of weeks because I was traveling, and I was thinking about going live while I was traveling, but then I had a little medical emergency. And so, what we're talking about today is medical emergencies and what you need to know and do when you have a medical emergency abroad, based on my little medical emergency that I had in Athens, Greece, and my trip to Athens, to Greece, and how it upended my whole trip, but how I was able to still salvage some things because of how I ended up ultimately managing it. We're going to talk about medical emergencies and what to do when you experience one. Or as I like to call it, what do you do when you bust your ass in Athens, Greece? This video will not be about me talking about my trip to Athens per se. I'll mention some things about Greece, but I'm primarily going to talk about what happened when I had my accident the second day of arrival. Who am I? My name is Anne Marie, aka Bald Girl Will Travel. I am a Black woman over 50, and I like to talk about solo travel as self-care and encourage women, especially Black women over 40, and especially those of us over 50, to solo travel as self-care. My motto is life is short, book the trip. Don't wait for anybody. If there's somewhere you want to go and something that you want to do it, and don't wait for anybody to go with you or for anybody's approval or permission. If you want to travel, travel. Solo travel is as easy to do as traveling with other people. And in my opinion, it's the most rewarding type of travel there is. So that being said, let's talk about when you are solo traveling and you have a medical emergency. So as some of you who follow me may know, I decided to visit Greece this September. I had been wanting to go to Greece for a while, found an inexpensive plane ticket and decided to grab it and book myself a flight to Greece. And the plan was to visit, to arrive in Athens, stay in Athens for 2 nights, 3 days, and then head to Mykonos and then Santorini. It was not going to be a long time. I was planning to be there for a good time, but not a long time. So I was going to be there for a total of, I think, 7 days, full days. Some, a little bit longer considering the travel, but actually full about 7 to 8 days, where I was going to do 3 nights, 3 days, 2 nights Athens, then 3 nights Mykonos, then 3 nights Santorini, then back to Athens and back home. But, and my plan was, because it was a short trip, and the reason it was so short is because I was able to get a very inexpensive round trip ticket for less than $500 round trip from Mexico City, which is unheard of. Usually it's more expensive to fly from Mexico internationally than from the US, and I live in Mexico. But I often fly through Houston because a lot of times the tickets are cheaper if I do that route, even flying from Mexico to Houston, then Houston to wherever I'm going. But this time I found a really good ticket directly out of Mexico through Madrid to Athens. So I jumped on it, but the only catch was that it only allowed me to travel between a certain block of days. So I had to leave on a certain day and be back by a certain day. So it did kind of force me to have a shorter trip. But I usually like to do 10 days in places. And I would have done 10 days. And now, obviously, after what happened, I will be going back to Greece. And my plan is definitely to do a longer time. So my plan right off the bat was to get to Athens. I was arriving in Athens in the afternoon, and to hit the ground running. I booked dinner at this beautiful hotel rooftop with a view of the Parthenon, the Acropolis, and then my very first activity the next morning, my one full free day in Greece, was going to be to do a tour of the Acropolis and then visit Plaka, which is a neighborhood right outside the Acropolis, check out this place, get a little rest, and then check out this restaurant I had read about for dinner. And I have a friend who is a travel agent, very successful travel agent, who was in Athens. So we made plans to meet up for dinner, which we did, which was great. The restaurant was good. The food was great. I'll write about my trip to Athens. And if you're following me on social media, I have already put up some videos, but I'm going to do a longer video about my trip to Athens, and share more about everything that I did and things to do and so on. I'll do a video and a blog post about it. Because yes, I did enjoy Athens, but my plan was not originally to be in Athens for the entire 7-day period that I was in Greece. My plan was to bop around to other places. But as I went back to my hotel room after my day of seeing the Acropolis, which was wonderful, going to the Acropolis Museum, walking around through Plaka, doing a little window shopping, checking out some places that I thought were interesting that I would come back to. I wanted to get back to my room, get a little nap, and then the plan was to meet my friend for an evening. Actually, I think we met up that did we meet up that morning? Or I think we had actually met up that morning and went to this restaurant for brunch. I think we did that my first day, actually, or was it my second day? It was my second day. We met up at this place in the afternoon and we had brunch and it was very good. And then after my tour, we did that. And then I went back. It was like, oh, I'll go back, get some rest. And then we were planning to meet and go to dinner. And so I get up, I get dressed, I look really cute. I have on some flat, like slide sandals, orans, if you know what remains, oran sandals on. So not heels or anything like that. I don't wear heels, generally speaking. Had some flat sandals on, and I walk out of the hotel, make a right, walk a couple steps. I take my phone out because I'm about to tell my friend that I'm headed in the direction of the restaurant. And the next thing I know, I'm on the ground. I don't even barely remember sliding. That's how fast it all happened, right? Now, the streets in certain parts of Athens are very old. Some of them are marble. And I noted that when I walked around the night before. We did some sightseeing. She took me around Athens by moonlight, which was amazing. And so I made a mental note that, if it rains or anything, I need to be careful. But I can honestly say that where I was walking, I had literally walked back that same sidewalk to come back from my activities earlier that day, from my tour and lunch and all that stuff. And I was wearing sneakers, though, and didn't even give it any thought. I really did not expect to just slide. I mean, I literally just slid and was on my butt. My one leg went one way, one leg went the other way. Hi there, MJ. So honestly, it happened so fast. There was no, opportunity. Now, luckily, I keep my phone in an OtterBox. So the phone didn't have any kind of anything. It just, fell out of my hand on the sidewalk. And I was kind of stunned. So I sat there I was sitting there for a couple seconds, and this woman ran up and asked me if I was okay. And that's when I kind of caught myself and I said yes. And I got up. And I almost was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I got up, and it was when I moved and started walking forward that I could feel a twinge in my foot. So I was like, let me just walk back to my hotel and sit down for a second. So I walked back. I mean, literally it happened right a couple steps from the front door of my hotel. I walked back into the hotel, went up to the guys in the lobby, told the guy at the front desk that I had just slipped on the sidewalk. He immediately said, let me go get you some ice. And I sat down on a chair in the lobby. And then I looked at my foot. And it was when I looked at my foot that I realized that I might have a problem, because it literally was swelling at such a rapid pace that it looked like there was a golf ball on the side of my ankle. So he brought me some ice. I sat there, I put the ice on my ankle. And then I walked upstairs and the throbbing started. I walked upstairs. And I sat on my bed, put my foot got some pillows off the bed, put my foot up on it, put the ice back on my ankle. And then I was texting my friend to tell her what had happened. And, I'm sitting there with the ice on my ankle, and the pain and throbbing subsides a little bit. And I took some ibuprofen because I always travel with ibuprofen with me. And I thought to myself, this isn't that bad. Maybe I'll just call an Uber and meet her for dinner anyway, I thought to myself. And then I got up to walk to the door, and I realized, yeah, this might be more serious. I don't think I can go to dinner. And now the next day, I'm supposed to be checking out of the hotel to get on a ferry to go to Mykonos. So I'm talking to my friend, and I told her, and I sent her a picture of my ankle, and she was like, "That looks bad. Are you sure it's not broken?" And I told her, "I don't think it's broken because I can walk," which I could. So I don't think it's broken. And I have an app on my phone called, and I'll tell you guys what it's called. It's called Citata, I believe. And you can put your trip plans in it, and it will tell you places to book, hotels, hospitals. It'll give you information about hospitals in the area, the best hospitals and the hospitals that they recommend that you consider. It will give you information about vaccines, medications, different things. You just put your trip plan, your dates, and it'll give you information. You put the hotel you're going to stay in, it'll give you information. So I had already had that in there. So I had pulled it out and looked at it to figure out, where I might go if I need to go to the hospital. So I had already looked at a hospital clinic type place that was nearby in Athens. And so I call an Uber, I put the address in, I call an Uber, and I'm going to go to this clinic. And I get in the Uber. The driver, of course, is Greek, speaks very little English. We're trying to find the clinic, get there and find the clinic's closed that they recommended. I also have travel insurance through Allianz. And so I had also gone on the Travel Smart app on my phone for Allianz. And Allianz also had recommendations of hospitals, places like that in the general vicinity that I could go to. So I finally told the Uber driver to take me back to the hotel, and I called my friend to tell her, I'm going to have to figure something out because the clinic wasn't open when I went there. It was closed, and I'm going to have to just, go back in the morning. And because she's a very excellent travel agent who's made arrangements for people to travel all over the world. She says to me, the hotel should have a doctor on call. Why don't you just have the hotel send the doctor up and have them look at your foot and determine whether or not you need to go to the hospital immediately or whether it can wait till tomorrow. As soon as she said that, I was like, why didn't I think of that? That's why it's good to have friends. And so as I'm talking to her, I'm, hobbling myself back into the hotel, and I go up to the front desk. Now, it would have been good if the hotel would have offered this service, but they didn't. So I go up to the front desk and I ask the guy, do you guys have a doctor on call? And he says, yes. But he's telling me, well, it can be expensive. And I told him, I don't care whether it's expensive. Can you send a doctor up to room, whatever my room number was? And he said, yes, ma'am, right away. We'll call someone and have them come up. And so in about, I would say 15 to 20 minutes after that, someone knocked on my door. Turns out, I think he was more of a emergency person. He wasn't an actual doctor, but he looked at my foot and right away he said, I think you should probably go to the clinic and get an x-ray, but I don't think it's broken, but you should probably, because it was like really swollen, it looked pretty bad. And so he was like, I can call an ambulance. And I was like, I don't need you to call an ambulance, because I'm not paying for an ambulance. I was like, I'll just give me the address and I will call an Uber to get there. And he was like, well, I'll call the head, let them know that you're coming, give them your name. He then told me, what the visit would cost, what the x-ray, everything inclusive of the x-rays would cost. And then he gave me the address. He also said, I'll wait for the driver to come and I'll talk to them and make sure they take you to the right place. So he did. He walked me followed me downstairs, walked me out, made sure I got in the Uber, told Uber driver where to take me, told me that when I got there, they will know that I'm coming. And so I went to this clinic called HOMED, HOMED. And I mean, if you're going to fall and bust your behind in Athens, they were excellent. The doctor was super nice, spoke perfect English, of course, which meant most people in Europe do. The x-rays were done immediately. He examined me. He told me, after he looked at the x-rays, he told me I was very lucky that I had not broken any bones, but that I had a severe sprain. We talked about options. He gave me instructions. um, about elevating my foot, icing it, and he wanted to put me in a boot, which I said no to. He told me he wanted me to, get my foot bandaged, and um, I told him I would do that, but that I was not going to be wearing a boot because my foot wasn't broken. So what am I wearing a boot for? And he also gave me like an ice pack to take back with me and told me to, ice, keep my ankle iced every 3 hours off and on, and keep it elevated, and ice it for 20 minutes and take it off, put it back on, um, and do that over a period of time. I don't remember the exact instructions because I wrote it down. Um, so then I get back to my hotel, and it occurs to me that I probably can't go to Mykonos the next day because now my foot's really swollen and it's really hurting. And, the islands have lots of hills. I knew for sure I probably couldn't go to Santorini because Santorini is nothing but hills. And I was going to be staying in one of those white, the houses up in Oya on the mountainside. And they had already arranged for someone to meet me and carry my bags up because the place was elevated. The view was amazing, but it was going to take some climbing. So I pretty much knew then I was probably not going to be able to do Mykonos and, getting on a ferry and all the stuff that I was supposed to be doing. So I got back, from the clinic. And one of the good things about the clinic was they did the examination pretty quickly. They also told me, once you get back to your hotel, we will send you a written statement for your insurance, which is something you want. The doctor also gave me pictures of my x-ray so that if I wanted to send it to my own doctor, I could do that. So once I got back to my hotel, I went up to the front desk and I asked the hotel whether I could extend my stay. And they told me that I could not because they were fully booked. And it was going to be like Thursday, I think. And the hotel that I was staying in was literally right in the city center. I had views of the Acropolis from my window. I'll say more about that when I talk about my trip, about the good and bad parts of the hotel. And I actually did a review of the hotel on Instagram and YouTube, so you can watch that on the channel. But they were fully booked, and I wasn't surprised because the location was really good. I think it was like maybe a 3 or 4 star hotel. Maybe 3 stars, I think. But the location was good. The service was actually pretty good. But there are other issues why I would probably not give that hotel more than 3 stars. But they were fully booked. So I found another hotel, 4-star hotel, that was further uptown. So it wasn't city center walking distance to the Acropolis like this hotel. But it had more amenities and room service, which my current hotel did not have room service. And if you're going to be stuck in a hotel with a sprained ankle, you need to be in a hotel with room service. So I definitely wanted to move to another hotel. And I basically decided then I'm going to have to stay in Athens. I decided I'm not going to go home early, but I'm not going to do the islands because it would be too much for me with my ankle with a severe sprain. Because this wasn't like a little twisted ankle. This was a full on, my foot swollen, like I got a golf ball in it. And it was becoming painful. So I decided to stay in Athens until I needed to head back so I could rest my foot. And I decided to move to a hotel that was, had, 4-star service at least and had room service, etc. So I moved to another hotel, and I don't know if I've done a review of that hotel yet. I will. I think I'm behind on with some of my content, but I moved to the Novotel Athens, which is a little further uptown from the Astor Hotel, which is where I was staying. And I'm really glad that I did that. From the minute I walked in the door, like people were, even the person at the front, security lady, was like, "Are you okay? Do you need anything? You sent some ice to your room." The service of the hotel was much better. They were really nice, and the room was nicer. It was bigger. Didn't have an Acropolis view, but it was a nice room, and the hotel had room service. So if I didn't want to go downstairs, I could just stay in my room and order what I needed. And I spent the next 2 days with my foot up, and I'm really glad I did that in retrospect. I didn't try to go anywhere. I think I went downstairs for dinner the second night. But besides that, I just stayed in the hotel, took pain medication, anti-inflammatories, which is one of the things the doctor told me to take, and stayed, which was ibuprofen basically, and stayed in my hotel room with my foot up. And I'm glad that I did that. So I had to cancel like the ferry and everything. And so I ended up staying in Athens. The last 2 days, I went and did a little bit of shopping because y'all know me and my, VAT tax luxury shopping is one of my favorite things to do in Europe. So I did venture out, do a little bit of shopping, did a little bit of walking, but not a lot because I had to really be careful. And I'm glad that I kind of tried to take it easy. And then the last day that I was in Athens, I went on a catamaran cruise, which was outstanding. And I did it because I wanted to see the Athenian Riviera. And it didn't require any walking because I had looked at a cruise that would have taken me around the islands off the coast of Athens. But I decided not to do it because I would have had to do some walking for that. And I wanted something where I could stay on the boat for the entire tour, but see something. So I ended up doing a catamaran cruise and it was great. And I'll put details about that stuff in my video about Athens and I'm going to do, and my blog post about Athens that I'm going to do. But so what did I learn from this experience? What I learned is that you got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So one of the best things was when this happened, I didn't panic because I had resources. So I knew to go to my travel insurance site and look up where the closest hospital was, that kind of stuff. I had resources on my phones. I didn't panic about what to do. Probably also helps that my late mother was a nurse. So I didn't freak out when it happened. I was more annoyed by it because it was very inconvenient timing because I was also thinking, I just fell and I hope this isn't bad because I'm supposed to be on a next trip. I started thinking about the next trip that I had to go on and I hope I'll be able to walk before the next trip, but I wasn't panicking about it. It was also great that my friend was there and made the suggestion about calling the doctor because I would not have necessarily thought about that right away. I also contacted my emergency contact group. I have a little group on Signal of my sister and my cousin, who's also like my sister more than my cousin. And they always are in contact with me no matter where I am in the world. So I immediately, when I went upstairs, after I fell, I immediately sent a message to them, sent a picture of my foot. And of course, my cousin, who has actually broken her foot, she's broken her foot and sprained her ankle. We have an ongoing joke about the fact that something's always happening to her foot. But she knew, gave me advice immediately about what I needed to do and the RICE method. And as she calls it, and the, I can't remember what RICE is, relax, and the E is for elevate, the I is for ice, and I can't remember, the C is for compress. I think that's how it works, RICE, when you sprain an ankle. So I immediately had, the ice bags, and they brought me bags of ice, and I put them in the cooler in the room and had them bring me. One thing they did do, even though they didn't have room service, they were nice enough to bring me ice. I called and they brought it to me. And I think the hotel was relieved that I hadn't fallen in the hotel. I could see the relief on the guy's face when I said I fell on the corner, right? Because then if I had fallen in the hotel, it would have been a problem for them. So they were super nice, super helpful. But there really wasn't that much they could do. But it's important that if you have a medical emergency, that you already have a plan for who you're going to contact. And I have, a group on, Signal. I use Signal as much as I use WhatsApp, but we're on Signal. So I had messaged them right away. So they right away knew that something had happened. And they were already giving advice. My foot wasn't broken, but I already, had gone to my app and figured out where the closest clinic was, even though it turned out to be closed. But there were other options on that list. But then when the doctor person came, they made suggestions of somewhere I could go immediately that was open. And that turned out to be a really good option. Not necessarily the cheapest option. I think I ended up paying something like $330 for the doctor's visit, 330 euros for the doctor's visit and the x-rays. Not horrible, but also not, cheap either. And then I called Allianz once I got back to my room. and reported the incident. And they were very nice. Right now, I have a claim with them, and I'm waiting to get to see if they need anything else from me to finish processing my claim. So I'll tell you guys more about how that turns out once the claim is completed. But so far, it hasn't been difficult. Now, what I will say I learned is that credit card companies, tell you you have all this coverage. I found a marked difference between when I called Allianz to report the incident and ask for help and what the response I got when I called the credit card company. When I called Allianz, right, they were very much about, are you okay? What do you need? Here's what you do to file a claim. Here's what you should do. The guy told me, actually, right now, concentrate on taking care of yourself. When you get back home, you can just send us these things. And they told me where to send it, what to do, so on. When I called the card company, they immediately went to what they weren't going to pay for. They were immediately on the ready to tell me what they were not going to pay for, which is basically nothing. Basically, they were like, and you have to put in a claim with your primary carrier first. We're just supplemental. So my message to you about those credit cards, if they're not American Express, and I wish that I had, but what my lesson was, use the American Express card to book your trips and your airlines and things like that. If you have an American Express card, even though I use that card because I get airline points and I get a lot of cheap airline tickets because I have so many points. Well, now I've used a lot of my points. But I can honestly say that I'm rethinking how I book on my United card because of the experience I just had in Greece when I called them to report that I might need to file a claim. All they want to tell me about was everything they weren't going to pay for. They weren't going to pay for the hotel. They would only pay for the hotel stays. They would only pay for transit. So I could put in a claim for the ferry, for the plane ticket that I was going to lose because I was planning to take the ferry from Athens to Mykonos, then from Mykonos to Santorini, and then I was going to fly back from Santorini to Athens to go back home because Santorini is one of the more further out islands. So it would have taken too long by boat. So I was going to fly back. So all those things had already been paid for, and it was a non-refundable plane ticket, and the ferry ticket was also non-refundable. So I needed to get reimbursed for those things. And one of the things I learned is if something like this happens and you have to cancel things, make sure you put all the cancellations in writing, right? Don't just not show up at the airport because your foot is up and you can't walk. Make sure you call the airline and cancel the flight. Even though they're going to tell you they're not going to pay, which they're not, and that you're not going to get your money back, still go on their website and cancel the flight. Same for the Airbnb, for the hotels. Go on each thing. If you can communicate with them, explain why you are canceling, and ask for a refund, even though they're going to say no. Ask for one. Let them send you they're declining in writing, because all of that stuff will help you with your claim, especially if you're going through a credit card company, to show that you tried to get your money back and could not get it because the tickets or whatever were non-refundable. I do find that places like American Express, if you're filing a claim, doesn't take you through all that stuff, generally speaking. And Allianz has so far been relatively pretty clear about just sending. They want to see like everything you paid for. They want proof that you actually flew to the place. They want all the receipts in addition to the receipts for like the doctor's visit and all that stuff. But they didn't, but the credit card companies want to see that you actually try to get your money back. Chase, I found, they want to see that you actually try to get your money back, that you can't put in a claim with any other insurance, because if you can, they're not going to want to pay. They're going to want you to try to get your insurance through your primary travel insurance first, and then whatever they don't cover, then they want you to put in a claim with that. They don't want to be the primary payer because they don't really want to pay. So even though they may tell you all these things are covered, you need to be aware that when it's time to actually put in a claim, you might not have the experience you think you're going to have, depending on who you have your insurance through. So that was something I really learned. And also the importance of having some of these things set up in advance so that you don't go into a panic when something happens. Um, and first and foremost, have travel insurance, y'all. I honestly didn't freak out because I had travel insurance, not just through my card, but I actually had purchased, I was purchasing per trip insurance. And then, because of how much I was traveling this year, I decided to just buy a whole year travel insurance policy through Allianz because I was traveling so much that it didn't make sense to do per trip insurance anymore. And I'm glad that I did that. Because I've traveled all this time. I've never had any problems. I've never so much as broken a fingernail on a trip, you know. And so I've never so much as, twisted an ankle or anything on a trip. But you just never know. I wasn't wearing heels, and I just slid. Now I'm really paying attention even to flat shoes, to make sure, of what kind of flat shoes I wear. But I don't know if it was the shoes. I don't know if it was the sidewalk. I don't know. All I know is I just fell on my butt out of nowhere, right? And it could happen to anybody at any time. And it could have been worse. And I'm really grateful that I just sprained my ankle and that I didn't break my leg or break my arm or get a concussion, or it could have been way worse than what it turned out to be, right? Now, my ankle is still a little sore, but for all intents and purposes, when I got back, I went to see a doctor and he looked at it and he gave me a lot of advice about, what I need to do to just not heal my ankle, but to heal the ligaments around my ankle and so on. And I'm following his instructions. What was the hardest part was coming back through Madrid. I'm adding Madrid airport to airports that I hate. I'm gonna do a new video about the new list of airports that I hate. I'm adding Madrid to that list. The airport is massive. It don't have good signage. They have you walking around in circles. And when you have a sprained ankle and you got to be trying to find a lounge and the arrows are going around like this, it's not pleasant. You get there and they don't have good signage to tell you if you're flying international. There's a specific terminal you have to go through. If you're flying out of the EU, you have to go through security and customs, but they don't have any good signage. So you could be sitting in the wrong terminal and then think you just have to walk to your gate and then find out that you're going to miss your flight because you got to go through customs and everything. There's no signs. Nobody tells you anything. I was just lucky that I went to the lounge and the guy in the lounge said, you have to go to this terminal and there's a lounge over there, but you're going to have to go through customs first. So you should go over there now and go through customs, and then you can go to the lounge over there. Otherwise, I'd have been sitting in the wrong terminal, in the wrong lounge, thinking everything was fine. I hate that airport. So I was lucky that I had gotten there, I had a long layover. And so I had time to take my time to walk from one place to the other. The lounge situation was a mess at the airport. I did a video on Instagram where I talked about the lounge situation in the Madrid airport. And the lounge situation, flying generally is a hot mess. But in Madrid, it was really bad. So I went to the lounge. There was nobody there. Got there. The girl informs me, I can't come in until my flight. I'm 4 hours away from my flight, which would be another hour. So come back in an hour. I sit right outside and, I'm on my phone checking, emails and so on. I look up and I see a line starting to gather outside the lounge. By the time it's time for me to go in the lounge, there's an actual line to get into the lounge, like a line. By the time I left the lounge, they were literally keeping people in a queue and only letting them in as other people left. That'll give you an idea how many people were in the lounge. It was not a pleasant experience. So I feel like lounges have gotten really oversaturated because all the credit card companies are giving people priority pass access and lounge access. So now everybody has lounge access. And so when you're flying, it's not a peaceful, quiet experience like what it used to be. And a lot of times you can't even get in. Some of the lounges won't take priority pass during certain hours of the day. So it's just a mess. And when your ankle is swollen and bandaged up and you just want to sit down somewhere, it's not fun. So the coming back part was probably the hardest part. Was the walking through the terminal and trying to get figure out where I was supposed to be and get one place to the other. Had put a bandage around my ankle, which I was really glad I did for the long haul flight. And I had gotten me a extra legroom flight, an extra legroom seat. I had gotten myself an economy premium seat, but honestly, I didn't find that the economy premium space on, was it Iberia I was flying, was really that good. I mean, honestly, I flew economy premium with British Airways in August, and that was really a great seat. It was really good seat, good experience. I actually had both seats to myself, so it was really good. But the seat in front of me, space in front of me was really good, and I could stretch my legs out. I thought considering you pay for these upgrades, I was not impressed. I could have just got an exit row, to be honest. And I think, did I end up with an exit row coming back, or which one did I get? I feel like one of them I had an exit row. I think the flight from Madrid back to Mexico City, I had a exit row seat, and the flight from Athens to Madrid, which was shorter, I think was the economy premium experience, but it wasn't really that great. It was better, honestly, to sit in the exit row because I had more space in the exit row than from Madrid to Mexico City than the economy premium seat that I had going from Athens to Madrid. But all things considered, Leslie said, "I'm sorry that this was your experience with a bad ankle. Would you have considered using wheelchair assistance instead of walking through the big airport?" No, I'm gonna tell you why tactically I won't use wheelchair assistance unless I absolutely have to. Because a lot of times I upgrade my seat to an exit row seat so that I can, one, have access to put my both bags in the overhead bin, and two, to not be near anybody's damn kids when I'm flying. And if you get wheelchair assistance, you can't sit on the exit row. So I actually thought about it because my cousin was like, "Oh, you should get wheelchair assistance." And I was like, "No, I'm on the exit row for my long 13-hour flight, and I ain't trying to sit nowhere else." Because one, I need to be able to stretch my legs out, and two, I don't want to hear about these kids. And I'm really glad I did that because I was able to stretch my leg out and I was able to go to sleep for a good bulk of the trip because I was sitting in the window and sitting in the exit aisle. And I would have actually had the row to myself, but then the flight attendant, Iberia doesn't make you pay extra for the exit row. So the flight attendant let these two somewhat obnoxious people sit next to me who were eating and talking and left crumbs all over the seat and whatever, but let's not even get into that. But I still had excellent space to stretch my leg, move my leg around, which I would not have had if I had gotten wheelchair assistance. So yeah, that's why I didn't get the wheelchair assistance. I didn't want to see anybody see me wheeling up in a wheelchair thing and then tell me I can't sit in the exit row because of it. Because I remember one time someone signed me up for wheelchair assistance in order to help me not miss a connection. Where was I going? And I was worried I was going to miss the connection. So I asked the woman, I was talking to the agent, and she was trying to be helpful. I think it was in Mexico. And so she said, "Well, I can give you wheelchair assistance, and that way you can get off the plane and they can take you to the thing." But then when I was getting on the plane, they were trying to take my exit row seat away from me. And I told them, "There's nothing wrong with me and I don't want no damn wheelchair assistance. Take it off." And they did. And they let me stay on the exit row. But I learned from that, no wheelchair assistance. If you want to sit on the exit row, you can't have wheelchair assistance because they want you to be able to get up and help them open a door. So you can't be in a wheelchair. So I would have been who knows where on the plane and maybe closer to the front, but with less leg room. And I was very concerned about leg room. I'm always concerned about leg room, not just because of my ankle, but for other reasons. And so I'm very anal about where I sit on the plane. And I will pay extra for a seat that will give me extra leg room. And usually what I try to do is just get an exit row seat because I don't want to pay extra money for economy premium unless it's a really long flight and I can't get the exit row. So keep that in mind. If you get on the exit row, you get to put your carry-on and your other bag up top. So you get all the front space in front of you. So that's something that I do a lot. Where do I buy, off topic, where do you buy your eyeglasses? I'm looking for a new pair and I love you. Sorry, consider sharing a name. I don't buy my eyeglasses from any. I used to follow, there's a person I used to follow on Instagram. What is her name? Because she's black owned, black woman, black owned business. Let me tell you her name real quick. I follow her. I still follow her on Instagram. So I had bought, did I get this pair from her? I think I got this pair from her. Let me see if I can find her name. But she has a eyeglasses. She's an optician, and she has a eyeglass business, and I can't remember her name right now. So I had bought glasses from her, but some of the brands I liked. So this brand is called Sabine B. It's a French brand. My glasses are probably my frames are probably more expensive than the average person would pay for it. But at the time when I bought a lot of my frames, I had vision insurance and I had a certain amount of money to spend. And so I would just use my FSA money and buy my glasses. Because if I didn't need it for health and medical reasons, I just use my FSA money for that. But I use my favorite eyeglasses brands are this one, Sabine. I also have a green pair from them that I love. Sabine is what these ones are. And then BE at the end. Sabinebe. It's a French brand. And then Kuboraum, which is a German made, Italian designed brand. I love their glasses. They are beautiful. They almost look like works of art to me, but it's spelled Kuboraum, Kuboraum. And I found my first pair of Kuboroums were from this person, who I cannot remember her name right now, and I'm really mad. If I remember it, I'll put it in the description of this thing, because for some reason I can't remember her name right now, so I can't find her on Instagram. But those are the two favorite brands, and I found them from that person. Now, there is a website called, is it Luxury Depot, a luxury discount, that I ended up shopping around because I didn't want to pay the retail for some of these glasses because they can get pricey. So I found this brand and some Kuborons on that website, and it's called Luxury Direct or something like that. I'll have to look for it because I actually haven't bought new glasses in a while. But that's where I got them. The other places, don't sleep on Costco. I found some really nice frames. I like Gucci frames a lot. I like their glasses. I found some really nice Gucci frames at Costco. Nice ones. And another place, don't sleep on, Nordstrom Rack. I have found really nice frames and designer eye frames for a lot less. And then I found a beautiful pair of Gucci glasses on Nordstrom Rack. And then I took them to Costco and had them put the prescription in them. Because I have a somewhat expensive prescription because I'm blind. I used to have really good vision and now I don't. So I wear progressives, and Costco was the best price for my prescription. But certain, if you buy luxury frames, some of them Costco wouldn't touch them. Like Costco wouldn't put my prescription in these glasses. So I had to go to another place in DC when I was living in DC. It's another Black-owned company. I'm very big on using Black-owned vendors for pretty much anything I can possibly use them for. But they're called, I follow them on Instagram too. They have sold Oprah Winfrey some of her frames. And they're called here they came up, Inside Opticians. They're called Inside Opticians. You can follow them on Instagram to get glasses ideas. They're not inexpensive, but I felt like if I was going to pay someone to put my prescription in these designer eyeglasses, that I wanted to pay somebody that looked like me. So that's where I went. So, and then when I bought the Kuboroums that I found on the Luxury Direct site, I also took those to get my prescription put in at Inside Opticians. I like them a lot if you live in the DC area. They're wonderful, and they're downtown on F Street. I'm gonna talk about Greece in a whole separate video. So I'm not gonna really, this video is really to talk about what I learned from my medical experience in Greece, which I've shared. I'll talk about my actual trip to Greece in a separate blog post and video that I'm putting together. But I will say that I enjoyed Greece very much and I plan to go back. I actually enjoyed Athens very much and I would like to go back to Athens, even though I stayed there for a week because I had to be indoors a lot because of my ankle. I didn't get to do everything that I wanted to do, and I really liked the city. I felt like Greece, like Athens needs to get a little bit more love than it gets. I feel like Athens is treated like a gateway to the other islands, Mykonos and Santorini. Athens needs at least 3 to 4 or 5, I would say at least 4 days of your time if you go to Greece. Don't just be in there for 2 or 3 days and then go somewhere else. Stay in Athens, I would say 4 to 5 days, because the nightlife is outstanding, the food, the shopping, the history, the artwork and stuff, and just the Acropolis was just outstanding. And there are ruins like everywhere. It's so wild. Like you'll be walking down the street and then they're just like right around the corner from the restaurant. It's amazing. And the people are so nice and the men are gorgeous. Oh, yeah. So I would love to go back to Athens. Honestly, I would go to Athens and stay there for another almost week before I went to the islands. So that's why I want to do 10 days next time, because I want to go back to Athens and stay for a week. I like the food a lot because the Greek people season their meat. That's like my biggest complaint about Italian food is they don't season the meat enough. That's not a complaint about Greek food. I enjoyed it very much. So I definitely would say yes to Greece. I definitely think Greece deserves, we should go. And I definitely think Athens, you should go to Athens and spend time in Athens. Don't just go for 2 days and then head to the islands. Thank you for sharing, Anne-Marie. Allison Thompson. Could you spell the name of the app? Which app? Because I mentioned a couple of them in the video. So tell me which app and I'll spell it out for you. So I hope I answered your question about my eyeglasses. Any other questions that I missed? Let me just check. I don't think I did. Wow, it's almost an hour already. Now, the app I mentioned for, because I'm going to stop in a minute. The app I mentioned for emergencies and stuff is, first of all, Allianz has an app called Travel Smart. So if you have an insurance, whether it's per trip or a longer insurance policy from Allianz, I definitely recommend downloading that app onto your phone. And then the other 2 apps that I would recommend having on your phone is Citata, Sitata, which you can put your trip location, your plans in there, and it will give you information about the location, including hospitals, information about vaccines, medications, places, things like that. It's called Citata. And then the first aid, the Red Cross has an app that's great for in the United States, but it doesn't cover places outside the United States. But it's still a good app to have on your phone because it also tells you first aid for, different things that might happen, bites and bleeding, and what to do if you get an asthma attack and an allergic reaction. So I also keep that on my phone and keep it like downloaded on my phone all the time when I'm traveling so that if something happens, I can use it. So those are the 2 apps that I would say you should definitely download onto your phone if you're a traveler. And if you don't travel a lot, then just keep it on your phone, take it off, offload it when you're not using it, and then put it back down when you are. But I keep those on my phone all the time because I travel so much. But I really like the Travel Smart app from Allianz a lot, and Citata is really good. Sitata. I think I answered all the questions that I was asked. I hope that this was helpful. I'm right now getting ready for my trip to Egypt. So I'm working on content around packing for Egypt and planning for Egypt. And then I'm working on my blog post and video about my trip to Athens, Greece, um, what I got to do, before I messed my foot up, and some of the stuff I got to do even after. I have to finish editing that video, but I'm working on it right now. But I really, like I said, I do recommend Greece. Overall, that's my overall answer. And then you can, look at the video. I don't think I'm going to have time to do a live about Greece before I leave. So I'm going to do a blog post and a video about it instead. I'm getting ready to start traveling to get ready for my trip to Egypt. So, and I'm going to be with a group for that trip. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to go live while I'm on that trip. I'll probably share content in my group primarily and maybe on Instagram, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to do a live while I'm in Egypt. Time difference and everything. I don't think I'm going to do that. You know, I'm happy about Egypt, but I have a lot of mixed feelings because I've heard so much negative things about Egypt. So I'm tempering my expectations, but I'm looking forward to seeing the pyramids. And it's going to be hot. So packing has been a challenge because even in October it's hot. So, and then the cultural stuff and no cleavage, and dresses shouldn't be, they should be past your knees, and even and you shouldn't wear anything tight. So packing for it has not been without its challenges, but I think I've come up with a good list of things to take. I'm actually working on I shot the pack with me video. I just have to get it finished and I'll put that up. But I think I succeeded on getting putting together things that I will enjoy being in, but that will follow the cultural rules that I've been reading. Every single thing I've read has mentioned the dress stuff, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm respectful. I see women with their back out and whatever at the pyramids. I'm not going to be one of them people. But I have a really pretty dress that I bought, and I'm still trying to decide whether I'm going to wear that to the pyramid for my pictures, because I have some pictures done there, or whether I'm going to just wear it because it's long. But I'm just thinking, we'll see. What I wear every day is going to be completely dictated by how it feels outside. And if it's oppressively hot as I'm reading, that's going to really dictate what I end up wearing. I'm taking a lot of linen with me because of that. I'm so glad Lynn said she had a small foot sprain in the Acropolis. I am so glad I got to do the full Acropolis thing before anything happened, because I wouldn't have been able to do it. But I had a severe sprain. Like, I'm almost 4 weeks out from it, and I think I'm at about 80% now, back to normal, but it's still not completely the same. So this was like a serious sprain. It wasn't like a minor sprain. But I'm really glad I got to do the Acropolis before it happened, because them steps and the climbing and the trudging about and the whatever, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had fallen. I literally fell the evening after I saw the Acropolis. So I'm glad I got to do that. Plus the museum, it was wonderful. I'm really glad I got to do it. I lost pretty much. I had to I had to rethink the whole thing. And you have to be flexible. When you're traveling, you have to be flexible. So I just was kind of like, well, can't go to the islands, but I wasn't stressed about it because I had travel insurance. So I wasn't like, oh my God, I just was kind of like, okay, what can I do with my foot in this condition? Like, what can I do that I can still salvage the trip? And so it was like, I went on Viator, which was great, and looked at like, what kind of stuff can I do that I can enjoy and still not miss the whole rest of the trip, right? But the first 2 days, I really couldn't walk. So I couldn't really do anything. But after that, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go, I wanted to see the palace. I wanted to see the changing of the guard. I didn't see the actual change in guard, but I got to get to the palace and get pictures of the guys with the interesting outfits, the guards at the palace. I did a little shopping. Maybe, well, not little, maybe. I had really good food. I Then the catamaran thing was a lot of fun. I mean, I probably the best meal I ate was on that boat. They like cooked a meal for us on a lunch that was just outstanding on there. So I definitely enjoyed doing that, and I got to see the Athenian Riviera, and that was great. Um, do I feel that Greece have an infrastructure for those that are physically disabled? No. Like if you can't walk, I don't see how you can do the Acropolis. There are no ramps. There are no, like, if you're in a wheelchair, I mean, you could sit at the bottom and look up, but you can't, like, how are you going to physically get up there? I don't see how. Now, Athens itself, you could get around other parts of Athens, but it's an old city. It'd be very difficult. And I thought a lot about that because, I've never had any disability before. And I thought to myself, wow, has to be really horrible for someone who has mobility issues. I don't think that a trip to Greece, it would be a great experience for a person with mobility issues. I don't. Um, like you could probably see certain things in like the central part of the Athens, but not the old city part of Athens. But from what I've heard about those islands, I don't think so. The islands, I think, would be out of the question. You might be able to do some things in Athens, but you probably would not be able to do the Acropolis. You could do the museum because they have ramps there at the museum. You could do the museum, and the museum is wonderful. But you wouldn't probably be able to get up to the Acropolis because, as I was thinking, trying to think if there was a ramp. But even if you could, yeah, because I'm just thinking just getting up there and walking around, I just don't see how you could get up there to the actual Parthenon and the Acropolis. That part might be difficult, but like Athens itself, you could probably get around there. Because I saw people on crutches. I did see that. Apparently, people do fall there. So I saw, and this woman I met, she had fallen and broken her wrist in the Santorini and had a thing on her arm. She was Greek. She was from there, and she was telling me, yeah, sometimes people fall here. And the lady at the hotel was also complaining that she felt that the city needed to redo some of the sidewalks in the old city part of the place. But it's the old city, it's the historic district. So I can understand in a way why they may not want to do that. But one of the things I didn't like was how much marble I saw. Because when marble gets wet, it's a hazard. And so I kind of made a mental note when I saw that. There were definitely ramps. When you come down from the Acropolis, the museum is down there. There are definitely ramps to get into the museum. You could definitely get around the museum. But I don't think the Acropolis itself, as I remember, in terms of getting up there, I don't remember seeing ramps, but I could be incorrect. That's something you might want to check on Google and see what it says about mobility and the Acropolis. But the Acropolis itself did not seem very mobility friendly to me. But the museum was. You could get around the museum. But the Acropolis itself, I mean, it's literally a city that was built on a hill. Yeah. So that part I think might be a challenge. But there are ruins all over Athens. Like there's Hadrian's, what was the name of that place that I saw? There were like lots of other places outside of the Acropolis that you could get to in Athens. But the islands, I'm not sure how disability friendly the islands would be because I didn't get to go, but I didn't get the reason I did not go was when I did my homework on it, it looked to me like it was going to be extremely difficult for someone who could not walk well. And because the first couple of days I really could not walk on my foot for any long periods of time without being in pain, I just was like, I'm not gonna like put myself in that situation and then be frustrated when I get there because I can't do anything. Because you got to be able to walk to see the islands. So I just didn't do it. So that's my somewhat long answer to that question. I hope that this was helpful and informative in terms of things that you should definitely think about in traveling so that you're prepared if there's an incident. I think it's really important to have, just to recap, I think it's really important to have an emergency group that you talk to, people who know where you are and can even track you. Like my cousin has the ability to track my phone. Um, right. So I like the fact that she has that ability. So if something happened to me, that she, even if I lost communication, she could track my phone and know whether she needed to call the authorities or something like that. And then also having, apps on your phone that you can get information. Because a lot of times when you have an incident, it's not a major incident. It's something like this. You fall. That's one of the biggest things that can happen. I always tell people the two things that are most likely to happen to you when you're traveling is a car accident and falling and drowning. Those three things. And it's not what people think about. Everybody's thinking somebody's going to abduct them. No, that's not what's going to happen. You're going to get in an Uber and get in a car accident, God forbid, or you fall down on the sidewalk and break something, or you go swimming and get into difficulties. Those are the kinds of things that we overlook while we're worrying about somebody abducting us on a street corner, or breaking into our hotel room that people talk about. But that's actually not your highest risk. Falling down on a sidewalk is your risk. And you could be wearing flat shoes, you could be wearing, Birkenstocks. The girl I saw with the crutches who had Birkenstocks on. You could be wearing, and it could still happen. So that's just something to keep in mind, is to like plan, think about travel insurance. I cannot emphasize how important I think travel insurance is for every single trip. I don't think you should ever go on a trip without having travel insurance. And there's lots of options out there. Do not just rely on the insurance that comes with your credit card. That's one thing I definitely learned from this experience. I'm so glad that that was not the only insurance I had, because they are not going to reimburse me for my hotels. They're not. Or my Airbnb. They're not. So the insurance, what credit card you have matters, right? American Express, as I said, I believe is the best credit card to carry for travel. But, hands down. Like if you can get your hands on a American Express Platinum or Gold, you ain't got to really have nothing else in terms of worrying about travel. But I do think having travel insurance with a company like Allianz or World Nomad or one of those is the way to go. And then your credit card is kind of your backup thing that you have as well. But don't just think because you have a credit card, you don't need to get travel insurance. I think that would be a big mistake, because a lot of them ain't really trying to pay. And they consider them, and you have to read the print, they consider themselves to be supplemental. And they have lots of requirements. So that's why I mentioned you need to make sure you cancel, that you contact each place and you cancel. If you can do it in writing, do it in writing, so that you can show that you did in fact cancel and that they did in fact refuse to give you a refund. And that's why you have to put the claim in, because some of them may not ask for that, and then some of them may insist that you provide that to them before they will even look at your claim. Do you think travel insurance from your work? No, I don't. Because if you're not traveling for your work, they may not cover it. If it's personal trip and it's not a work trip, they may not cover it. So I don't think you should rely on travel insurance from your workplace, unless you have confirmed that they will cover personal trips. And you call them and ask them. But it's very important that you read, like when they send you those policies, that you read it. Don't just assume that they're going to cover everything. So that was very eye-opening for me when I got to the hotel and I started calling and asking questions. I knew that the travel insurance would cover what it would cover, but calling the credit card insurance and having them be like, oh yeah, we will only cover transit. We won't cover any hotels. They don't tell you that when you apply, do they? No, they don't. So don't assume all credit card insurance is not created equal. And so don't assume if you don't have travel insurance, it might not be. Allianz is my travel insurance company. I also had insurance through the credit card company that I booked, actually paid for the trip on. And they claimed that they would also cover trip interruption. But their trip interruption had a lot more limits than what the Allianz policy has. And they consider themselves to be supplemental. So they expect you to first file a claim with your primary insurance first, and then you can file a claim secondary claim with them for what your travel insurance doesn't pay, but they will also not pay a lot of things. How do I spell what? You said, how do you spell it? How do I spell what? So I definitely, Allianz, you spelled it correctly. Exactly how you spelled it is correct. So I definitely recommend having travel insurance. It will definitely not help with the stress levels, in terms of worrying about what am I going to do if I can't, um, if I can't do this or I have to go home, for example, or something like that. In this case, I didn't go home. I just tried to make the best of it and made some adjustments to my trip, and I'm glad that I did that. Um, but in some cases, you might have to go home. The injury might be such that you have to go home. I was at least, after 2 days, I could walk a little bit more, and so I did. But I couldn't walk a lot. And so when I got to the airport is when it actually became clear to me that, when I got home, I needed to sit down somewhere for a minute and take it easy. And I did. And that helped a lot. Like literally just being off my foot helped me heal, um, and not doing anything, just taking it easy. And as well as going to my doctor, getting a stronger prescription level anti-inflammatory. And he put me in an ankle brace, a small one, like a small ankle brace, but he told me to wear that, and that helped a lot. I can honestly say after about 3 days of keeping my foot consistently bandaged with like a ace bandage, icing it and keeping it elevated, the swelling went down almost to normal. The pain didn't go away, but the swelling went down because my foot looked really bad when I got back home to Mexico because I had been doing all that walking in the airport. But then when I got to Mexico City, another thing that I did is I stayed in Mexico City for a day before I headed to where I actually lived. Stayed in my favorite hotel, used some points, stayed in my favorite hotel, and got some room service, laid on my butt, took it easy, and it over those 2 days the swelling went down a lot. And then when I got home, 2 days again, stayed in the bed, worked from my room, did everything I needed to do from my room with my foot up, and the swelling went down quite a bit. So it's like you really have to like get off of it and give it a break. Um, so by the time I went to the doctor, the swelling had gone down quite a bit, but the pain, like the second week, it was very painful. And like it was like almost like the pain was moving around. So one day on one side of my foot would be hurting, the next day the other side of my foot would be hurting. Then for a couple of days, the soles of my feet was hurting. So standing up on my foot would hurt, but not my ankle as much. It was really weird. And he was telling me it was because I had ligament, injury. It wasn't just my ankle that was injured. It was like the ligaments around my ankle also. But it could have been worse. Do you have travel insurance recommendations besides Allianz? I have used World Nomad as well. I found them to be pretty reasonable per trip pricing. And World Nomad was covering COVID during COVID when other people weren't covering it, was one of the reasons that I had bought policies from them. So that's another one that you might look at. And then there's one called Safety Wing, I think, but I've never used them. But World Nomad is another one you can look at if you're looking for travel insurance besides Allianz. Yeah, it's called World Nomad. Okay, I'm going to sign off now because, like I said, I need to take it easy, and I'm actually not in my room right now. So I need to go get myself together, put some ice on my ankle because, like I said, I'm traveling soon, and I really want my foot to be at 100% if possible, at least maybe 95. And right now, I would say it's probably at 80, but it's still not 100. I can still feel a little twinge when I do certain things with my feet. So it's time for me to go put them up and chill out a little bit. So there will be no tea time for the next couple of weeks. I will be sharing things in my groups. If you're a Black woman over 40 and you're not a member of my Facebook group, you might want to join my Facebook group. There's a link in the description of this video so that you can see some of my Egypt content, because I usually share a lot of stuff in there before I share it elsewhere. And then when I get back, God willing, I will do a live about Egypt because I'm sure I will have a lot to say because y'all, I'm going to be on a group trip and I will talk more about what I think about that and who I went on the group trip with and what the experience was like and so on and the itinerary and all of that when I get back from my trip. But it's a pretty lengthy trip and it's a lot we're going to be doing and we're going to be moving around. There is a cruise down the River Nile for several nights and days and different stops. And I'm seriously thinking about signing up for this tour of Abu Simbel, I think it's called. But I'm still waiting to see how my feet work because that requires a lot of walking on they said terrain, challenging terrain. And I'm trying to do that unless I feel 100% that my foot is okay. So I haven't signed up for that because I'm not sure yet that I'll be able to do it, but I really want to do it. So I'm hoping that I will be able to do it. And I've taken really good walking shoes. I'm taking my inserts for my walking shoes with me on this trip to make sure my feet are good and comfy. I've got multiple fans, y'all. I got the fan that goes around your neck here. I got the hand fan, and then I got a regular old traditional fan just in case those two things go out on me. I'm all fanned down because I hate being hot. So, and we're going to be outside a lot. And from what I hear, when you get to the pyramids, there's no shade at all. So I'm going to do a video about some of the things that I'm taking. I'll probably do like a short video about the things that I'm specifically taking to try to fight the heat in Egypt. Because I have stuff I got specifically for this trip that I did not own, but I got just because of how hot I've heard it is out there. And they said it's even hotter in Luxor and Aswan, which is where the cruise will be going through, than it is in Cairo. So y'all pray for me because I don't like to be hot. And October is supposed to actually be a good time to be there. October and November, they say, are good times to be there in terms of temperatures, but it's still hot. So yeah. And so yeah, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me live. Thanks for the really great questions. You guys always ask really good questions. You guys have a great weekend. Have a safe and happy weekend. And I'll see you guys in the next live. If you have not liked this video, please do. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Please like the video if you enjoyed the live and enjoyed the content. Please like the video as you are leaving, and also, leave comments. And I always appreciate you guys giving me ideas about what you want to talk about next. But more likely than not, the next live will be about the trip to Egypt. But if there are other topics that you want me to talk about, please let me know. Okay? All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of the evening, and I'll see you in the next live. Bye.